Hey guys, welcome back to almostinevitable.com. My name is still PK and I make WordPress tutorials for website developers and designers. So this is not necessarily WordPress, it is just about CSS. And the reason why I'm doing this, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons is because, the main reason I guess, is because it's hard for people to find well-structured CSS courses because everywhere you see snippets, tutorials, tips, tricks, but not necessarily a full-fledged structured course. Now, this is going to be a 9-part course. It is sort of structured. It is not as structured as, like, for example, this is my website, new logo. It's not as structured as the Crash CSS crash course or as the Sass course. This one has both, and right now I have like 50% off, so you can have a look. But it's not as structured. It's hard to find really well structured ones, and I wanted to make this so at least some people can get some well structured and, most importantly, practical CSS. Now, if I start talking about what practices, what types of approaches are better or not, there's no end. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of stuff to cover just about CSS, but we're going to cover only the bare bones practical CSS, okay? Just the bare bones, just enough that you know what you're looking at when you see some CSS, okay? Cool. Now the nine courses, the 9 lessons, I guess, will be selectors and units, typography, colors, the box, display, positioning, flex, grid, and variables. Okay, that's 9. That's 9, and we're going to start with selectors and units. Now, before I get into that, selectors, I can talk really fast, but it's never going to be as thorough as this post, this tutorial, okay? This is about 50 minutes or something, 40 something minutes, under an hour, and it goes over everything that you need concerning CSS and how to use it with WordPress. The most important part being the specificity, okay? Now, specificity is what the selectors are for, okay? It is the part that you write that will target the right element on the page. And that is how things are styled, okay? So now that we got all that out of the way, all the links will be in the description down below as usual. And also the accompanying post will also on my website for this. So you can have the downloads and the text content for this also linked down below, okay? And this will be in part of a playlist. So add that playlist, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, and you can follow along. All right. Now, one last thing before I get into explaining the units, because we got the selectors out of the way. Now we can talk about units. I use Sublime Text. All right. I use Sublime Text for most of my single file editing because it's lightweight and I just have tons of windows open with tons of tabs. And it's great if you install something called Emmet. All right. Now, Emmet is a package that you can install onto Sublime. So it's like an add-on or a plugin if you're working in WordPress. You understand plugin, something like that. And what it does is, I'll show you what it does. It's really cool. So it helps you when you're writing HTML. Okay. You can expand things easily, like for example, ID. Yeah, with a class, this is a class, and that's what you get. All right, so you type in whatever you need, just like the class, the selector. Technically, you're typing in the selector, and then you press tab, and it expands into whatever it is, whatever you've typed. So that's really helpful. Okay, so all the links are down below. Sublime Text link, the Emmet link, how to install packages, all that linked down below. Okay, so check that out so you can follow along. You can pause this video, come back once you're done. I don't need to pause because you'll be pausing and you'll be doing that, right? Cool. So now that you're back, let's, like one thing before I even start, one more thing. Have you noticed like videos when they have like buttons where you can click and links on the video? You're watching the video. What use is that link? You click and you go off into a new video? Why? You need to finish that, and then, you know what? I think that's really bad UI. I don't know. What do you think? I think it's really bad UI because I've never clicked on one of those because I'm watching the video. You want me to stop the video and go somewhere else? Do you need me to come back after that? Like, anyways, cool. Let's start the 13-minute, 13-second timer. Here's a timer, and let's start that, and we'll talk about units. Okay, so units. There are two types. Oh, let's start an HTML document like that, and what we're going to do is we are going to install some CSS. Now here I have two CSS files, and one of them is sample, which is this guy here, and one of them is main, which is a render of this guy. Okay, now this is a full-on folder that I use as my framework. I use this default framework, and then I write on top of that, and that is how I compile my Sass to style my websites. So that's why I always use Sass, and that's why I think it's so important, and that is why I have a Sass course. Okay, all right. So, and you get that framework from that course. All right. So this is pretty much the framework in that course. So that compiles into a 5 kilobyte file, and this sort of helps with a lot of the basic basic structures and basic stuff. Even if I add all my other extra stuff, it becomes like 7 kilobytes at best. So it's really useful. Okay, now in order to install, in order to load CSS, you need to add these guys. All right, so it's link, style sheet. Now the thing is, when I was testing this, this guy, you see those quotation marks? It should be the straight ones, not the 6 and 9s. You know, so need to do that. Yeah. So main, and the other one is sample. All right, yeah. So these two are the ones that we need. And now we're ready to go. Cool. Yeah. All right, cool. So let's start with adding some stuff. Let's add an H1 and a paragraph. Now I'll put them in sections, and I'll show you. Put this in a section, and that will have padding of 1.1, which is unit 1.1, and that is 6 rem. I'll get to rem in a minute. And underneath that, we'll have a row, which is the container. Cool. Let's add an H1. And let's add a paragraph. Woohoo! This is a paragraph. Cool. And we load this here, and there you go. Right? Okay, so now, there you go. All ready to go. All right, so let's talk about units. There are two types of units. Okay. Now, when I mean units, I mean length. Units of length. Units of length. Cool. One is absolute units, and the other is relative. There we go. All right, absolute units. The only thing you need to worry about is pixel. That's it. And in terms of pixel, technically 1 pixel and 1 dot point are a little different, retina screens and all that, but the browser acknowledges 1 pixel as 1 dot of point of color that the OS tells it to render, and that's what a pixel is. Actual pieces of light color, actual light that is put together on a monitor, a Retina screen monitor, or phones, a little bit smaller. All right, it can be like usually half because that's how Retina first came out, right? But that we don't care about that pixel. All right, now the actual size of a pixel, if you put the ruler to the screen, can be different because all screens have different pixel densities, but the browser considers a pixel as a pixel. Okay, that's all we need to care about. We don't use millimeters or inches, which exists in CSS, but we don't use that. All we use are pixels. That's all you need to care about. Now, relative units are a little more fun. There's M units, there's REM units, there's VW units, VH units, Vmax, and Vmin, and also percents and the character. Okay. Let's talk about the M. All right. Now, here, what the M is whatever it is. Let's say, for example, H1 is font size 24 pixel, right? Now, if I do that, that means this guy will be 24, right? You see that? 24. Cool. Now, 24 pixels is 1M. It's 1M. Anything is 1M. All right? I'll show you. All right? So P, font size, you know what? I'll make everything larger. All right? Font size. Let's go with 24 here, and let's go with 48. I can't see anything. My keyboard has no letters on it, so I can't. Yeah, 48. Where's 8? That's 8. All right. All right. So we can see that H1 is 48 and the paragraph is 24. So that's all good. It's doing what it's supposed to be doing, and we're all happy, right? Okay. Now, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to show you an example of what M does. All right. Let's for example add margin. You know what? I'll do it for the paragraph. Margin top 1M. All right. Margin bottom 1M. All right. Does nothing because the paragraph, the margin on the H1s are larger than the C. All right, so you can see it still says margin 1M. If you go to computed, you'll see margin bottom is 24 pixels. Margin top is 24. Now, like I said, font size for that element is 1M. All right? That paragraph font size is 24. So anything inside that P will consider 24 pixels as 1M. Okay? So here's a good example of how that works. Now, we're in H1. What is the 1M? What is an M unit in H1? It's 48, right? So let's, for example, put margin bottom 0.5M. Okay? 1M is 48. 0.5M is 24. So if I save that and reload it here, you can see that changed. And H1, what did I? Okay. So you can see margin bottom, 24 pixels. Okay. Okay. That is how M units work. Now, why is that important? It's important because let's say, for example, let's make the row and the container have a certain size. So dd container, for example, font size 24 pixel, and we want this H1 to be 2M, and we want pixel to be 1M. All right, and you see that it doesn't change. because I didn't save it. There you go. Is that right? No, it is. Yeah, that is right. Yeah, I did save it. All right, so you can see font size is 2M. Yeah, you see that? So where is that 2M being calculated from? It's being calculated from this guy, because this guy has font size 24 pixels, and that anything underneath it now inherits that font size as 1M. Oh, this is going to be a way longer course, because this is going to be way longer. Explaining M is so important, and getting the difference between M's and then REMs, and then understanding VWs, VHs, and all that. And then we can get into clamps for typography. But yeah, this is going to be at least one or two more courses, one or two more lessons. It's going to be maybe 11, not 9. How much time do I have left? 3 minutes left. Yeah, I can barely cover that, M's and REMs. So VWs and all that, relative units, next lesson. This is going to be a 10 lesson course, or maybe 11, who knows. So yeah, I'm probably going to be talking way more. Now, here's a cool thing. Rem units are root. Okay, so here in the root, I should take out the root in the original here. So you can see I have HTML body font size. Yeah. All right. Oh, yeah, I'll leave that there, I guess. Yeah. All right. No, I'll take that out. We don't need that. More confusion, so don't worry about it. Okay. So root font size, let's say, for example, 16 pixel. Okay. Now, that gives us that. What does it give us? Doesn't look like much, but nothing changes because of this guy. So let's take that out, see what happens. There we go. All right. Now, remember, root is 16. So that's the only time font size has been, assigned or declared. So the H1 should be twice that, because it's 2M, so it's 32, right? Now, what this can do is, if you have font size 16 there, and if you have you have 2 M's here, and then the 0.5 M is half of that, it is confusing, right? So what you can do is you can actually get the H1 to be 2 rem. All right. And then you get that. Nothing, right? You don't get much. Well, what you do get is actually, so the root has an M defined, all right? Root, if you define the font size in the root, that is called a root M, okay? A root M. Now, if you look at this, for example, let's say margin bottom is 0.5 rem, then you can see it's now only 8 pixels. Now, it doesn't show because the paragraph has its own margin, so it won't change anything because margins overlap and the larger one beats the smaller one. But here you can see that the margin bottom is assigned as 8. All right, it is 8 because it is 0.5 rem. Okay, we don't want that. Normally, depending on how large the font size is, the margin should be ratioed. So M is a better idea. Font size also here. Font sizes being 1 rem is better. Now, okay, that's 13 minutes, 13 seconds. I'm at 19 minutes because the intro was too long. I'm gonna wrap this up before we get to 20 minutes. It'll end up being 20 minutes. So rems are root M's and regular M's are just that font size. That's the difference, all right? So M's are great if you are making things to be ratio sized, have a ratio in terms of font spacing and all that. But they can be confusing. And sometimes if it keeps inheriting the new font size, it just becomes a mess. So it's good to have a rem, which is a fixed size. All right. You can even change the font size up here. So the root M size changes. Okay, you can even do that. And some people set it to 10 because that's easier to calculate. It's like centimeters. For me, I use 20, feels like inches, and I use 20 as a default on desktop because that's easier to calculate for me. So yeah, you can actually set that and you can change the basic unit. Okay, so hope that helps. I'm going to keep talking about relative units in the next video, so keep a lookout for that. Subscribe and like and all that, and I will see you around. Also, I have a Discord invite link down below. Please join us and we can chat. Okay? All right. See you around. Take care. See you in the next video. Bye.